Hello once more. Um, that's one thing about making these videos is I'm such a good listener. Yeah, man, I'm very attentive when it's me talking. I'm just so, interested in myself. Just so interesting. Nah. As far as like what I was saying a minute ago before the phone rang, and this is April 11th, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon or so. And yeah, the phone just rang and interrupted uh, me and my endless patter and wordplay. But as far as like my Benzo situation, um, I don't know what the deal was, but I uh, still having trouble organizing my thoughts and speaking as I usually speak, which is fairly coherently. I wouldn't go as far as eloquence, but a heck of a lot better than I've been doing on these videos while going through withdrawal. So today I slept at night. That's like the first time I slept at night. I mean, I was waking up. I kept waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning. That was my time. And then I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I wake up and I'm like, I don't even want to look at the clock. I'm like, it's still dark out. I have no idea what time it is. And I like, I got to wear contacts and glasses. My eyes are pretty bad because I'm an old man. But I look over there and I'm like, oh God, I think that's a one. I'm gonna wake up at 1 again, and that means like when other people are up and about moving around, I'll be getting sleepy, and I still have my sleep still haven't hasn't been regulated. I've been on a 75% reduction from my alprazolam intake for it will be 4 weeks come Friday. So that's not a lot of time for your brain to heal. 4 weeks, and I'm still taking a measly quarter milligram a day, just so I don't have to do complete cold turkey, which I'm doing much better than I expected. I mean, um, the misery that I was in when I first had, when my doctor decided to spring that April Fool's joke on me of, oh, here, I'm not going to talk to you about it, but here's some withdrawal for you. Take this home with you. And just cut my prescription in half. So fidgety, man. It's just, ugh. Just fidgety and, um, ugh. Okay. It's hard to describe what you feel like when you're going through the benzo withdrawal, but I try to describe it in the other thing. Like, it's like you got a sunburn on the inside. It's like that's where you got like a mild sunburn where it's like you're okay, but you're just kind of like, you just the pressure on the sunburn. I realize some of my audience might not be relate to being to sunburns, but if you happen to be a pale bastard like myself, you probably relate to this. But yeah, that's what your central nervous system feels like. Is it feels like it's sunburned, it's raw, and it's touchy, and yeah. Um, Luckily for me, my withdrawal so far hasn't been as bad as other people's, which I'm infinitely grateful for. You know, I see other people on here that are suffering way worse than I have been, and for way longer. So, when I was first going through it, I was like, oh man, I don't want to offend anybody, but I was like, oh, I hope I don't end up like these poor other folks. It's like I don't, and that's what was scaring me is like I can't do this every day. I can't even give a pep talk to somebody that's been going through it. That's a terrible pep talk, isn't it? To tell you that, me personally, I was like, I can't do this every day. I can't take it. It's like waking up in the morning, or in the morning. You wish it was the morning. Waking up whenever you wake up, knowing that you feeling that withdrawal hit you and knowing what's in store for you that day and how you're going to feel and how hard it's going to be. God. Ugh. So today I had heart issues, or I just felt weird. I just feel like an overall weird sensation because I got a heart problem. So I was like, well, I got some diazepam around here because my problem's with alprazolam, and I was told to get some diazepam because it has a longer half-life or whatever. That sounds like a radiation thing. It's probably not even right. I'm probably talking about uranium or something. But I was told it stays in your system longer, and therefore it'll help even out the Xanax withdrawals. Because Xanax is fast-acting and leaves your system quickly, whereas diazepam doesn't leave your system as quickly. So it'll stay with you longer, and you won't get that spiking thing where it's like, oh, peak, drop off. And I think it's helped me quite a bit, actually, and I would recommend that to anybody that's going through a forced taper like I was, to use a lesser benzo than a Xanax. And diazepam, I don't know about other benzos, I shouldn't say, but it was recommended in the Heather Ashton manual, the famous, like, if you know about that, well, I'm very sorry for you if you know about the Heather Ashton manual, because that means you've got a problem like mine, and my problem is very annoying and makes me want to choke everyone I come across these days, and and I'm just not, I'm laughing and stuff because it's, I always find humor in everything. If it's ridiculous, it's ridiculous. It doesn't matter if the joke's on me. If it's stupid. Like, I fell in a hole once. I have so many stupid old man stories. Once you get old, you got all these stories that are probably boring to people. But I had to learn how to walk twice. One of the times I had learned how to walk, I had just figured it out. My dad had knocked I was like, I don't know, somewhere in my teens. My dad had knocked a concrete hole to pull the pump, because we were out a little bit out in the country, and we had like a pump that went into a well instead of city water. So he knocked a hole in this concrete, right? And there's a board over this hole. Now, I've known about this hole and why he didn't fill in this hole and just left it there as a trap. I don't know, because don't ask me about my old man psyche. But anyways, so there's just a board over the hole. And we had a puppy at the time that was in the garage that was in sight of where that board was over this hole. So the puppy is in the process of escaping from the garage, because the garage didn't have a door on it. It just had another board. And the puppy's escaping, and I'm like, I'll use this board. So I pick up the board off of this hole and immediately step into the hole. Now, I didn't pull a groin muscle or anything, but I did this. Where one leg was down the hole and the other one was straight, and I was doing some kind of weird gymnastic split that I wasn't qualified for, and it wasn't too comfortable on some of my more tender parts either. So I'm just stuck there. Now, this is in winter, and there's nobody outside, and I am just stuck in a hole. My leg's stuck in a hole. I have barely been out of the hospital. I have barely learned how to walk, and I have to figure out how the hell to get out of this situation. Because I'm like, I can yell for help, but I'll just be sitting here yelling. Nobody will hear me. And that's not going to help. So I got to try to figure out how to get out of this situation myself. So I was looking around, and like I said, my dad was an odd duck. And we had like an old shop vac thing, which is, if you don't know what a shop vac is, it's basically, at that time, was a canister. This is so disgusting. It was a canister that had caught a bunch of rainwater in it, but it was an old shop vac that, he was just like a pack rat. He just kept a bunch of junk around all the time. And so I'm like, if I can reach that shop vac, I can use the edge of the shop vac for leverage and get my leg out of this hole. And meanwhile, the puppy is like, he wasn't getting out anyway. The puppy that was in the garage in the story, he wasn't getting out anyway. That was all in my head, that he was going to get out and escape, and then I would have to run him down and make sure he wouldn't get hit by a car and all this stuff. That was just all my head messing with me. So the puppy wasn't getting out anyway. He just kind of watched me, wondering, what's this damn fool doing with his leg in this hole? Just kind of stuck there. And he got real short somehow. He went from 6 foot tall to about 3.5 foot tall. So I'm still stuck there with my leg in a hole and my other leg out. And I'm like, well, I'll grab this shot vac. And then I grabbed the corner of it and tried to pry myself out and start to tip over. And I'm like, well, that doesn't work. I looked inside, and it's half full of rainwater, and it's just squirming with the mosquito larvae. It's like these larvae swimming around in it, and the water's all brackish and disgusting. And I'm like, I don't see no other option here. So I put my hand down in the water with all the larvae and all those nasty swimming little beasties in there. And then I was able to pry myself up out of that hole and then go in the house and like wash my hand a million times. I was in there with that stuff. But anyways, I could see the humor in that while I was going through it. While I was stuck there, I'm like, you got to be shitting me. This could only happen to me. I pick up a board that's covering a hole that I knew about and immediately pick up the board and immediately step in the hole. Just like in one motion. And then I'm stuck there with a puppy watching me like, what? The humans are very strange people. What is this guy doing? Why is he stuck there? So yeah. So the point of that is I can see the absurdity and the humor in most situations. And even when I was getting plunged into withdrawal after I come out of a psych unit, it was amusing to me. And then once I got in the full withdrawal, the joke kind of wore off. But even while I was going through the withdrawal, I'm like, this is really happening. I mean, I just come out of a psych unit. I'm supposed to be fragile psychologically. And my doctor is not giving me my refill on time. And over a 3-day period, I'm calling these people and getting no response. And now I'm going to go through withdrawal fresh out of a psychiatric unit. And that's about the time that I was like, I need to get, that was like a step on the road, at least to me, saying I need to get off. The only way I'm not ever going to have to be afraid of withdrawal again is to get off of whatever the fuck I'm addicted to. So, I already knew I was, before that, I knew I was chemically dependent on alprazolam or Xanax. So it wasn't like a surprise to me, but I'm like, this is just going to keep happening. This kind of nonsense is just going to keep happening if I don't get off of this stuff. And the deeper I go and the longer I'm on it, of course, the harder it's going to be to get off of it. And like I said, other people take a lot more than I do, and for longer periods of times than I have. But I got like a delicate constitution where everything seems to be amplified, and I have CRPS, which is already a disease of the central nervous system. And if you understand benzodiazepine addiction, you understand what it does to your central nervous system. So if you already have a compromised central nervous system, you don't want to be messing with that stuff. You don't want to be taking it ever. So I think that's why it made it so much worse for me than it should have been, because my dose was low. I'm talking 1 milligram a day, and the time period I was taking it over was I guesstimate about 2 years, but I don't even know the exact time frame. It might be a little more than 2 years. It might be a little bit less than 2 years. But man, I struggled just with the getting off the 1 milligram and dropping it down to a quarter milligram. I dropped my dose 75%. And like I said, it'll be 28 days this Friday. It'll be 28 days this Friday since I was dropped 50%. And then about 10 days I've been, after I went to my doctor's appointment, and I was like, this guy ain't even listening to me. I better drop, it gave me a sense of power to go from a 50% reduction to a voluntary 75% reduction. Because I was like, aha, the doctor don't know about this shit. And I lied to him. I was like, yeah, I'm still taking a pill, because I'm stockpiling. Hell, a little bit. I didn't have many pills to mess with, or to stockpile with. But, I told him I was still taking a full pill. it gave me like a sense of power and made me feel better about the situation, because I was like, look, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm going to take care of myself. I got to take care of myself. And, then I got some diazepam that's when, I don't know if it was a timing thing or like that makes that much of a difference as far as lessening the horror of the withdrawal. But right around the time I started taking diazepam in very small doses, like 2.5 milligrams, and then like half the time, and then sometimes 5 milligrams. Those are relatively small doses of diazepam or Valium. So I don't know. I kind of lost, my brain's not right, obviously. So I kind of lost the overall theme or thread of whatever this freaking video is about. But yeah, bad day today. Like I said, I took I don't know if I already said that or not, but because I was feeling like my heart wasn't right, I took a blood pressure pill and 5 milligrams of diazepam, and I haven't taken any alprazolam today, and I don't plan to until tonight. I'm not sure at what point I can say goodbye to it. I don't really believe that it's a psychological thing with me. So I I think that once my nerves get back to where I'm at some sort of inner peace, I'm not sunburned on the inside anymore. I'm not out on the porch in my boxers in the middle of winter, locking myself out. Where I don't feel like that anymore. Then I'll try to go off it completely. But I'm not doing that. I mean, a 75% reduction in 21 days. That's when I started, I think. 17 days. 17 days is when I upped it to 75%. That's severe. I mean, 1 milligram's a low dose, and I realize that a lot of y'all are taking a lot more than that. But like I said, it's kind of amplified by the CRPS because if a lot of you probably already understand the whole GABA thing and how it affects your central nervous system, and you probably already know what I'm talking about. Being sunburned on the inside, where the irritability and oh God, you probably already know that. So I don't really have to. If you're watching this, I don't know why anybody would watch a video that wasn't about benzo withdrawal, that didn't have a problem. I don't know if you like to look at car accidents, or if you like to watch people hop around on crutches. If you got like a morbid curiosity, it's not a club you want to be a part of. If there actually is somebody watching this just like, oh, what the heck, let's see what this is about, who doesn't have a problem, yeah, it's not a club you want to join. If I was you, I wouldn't play with Xanax, I wouldn't play with Valium, I wouldn't play with Ativan. I mean, you can take those things in a limited way, briefly. But if you start taking them every day for anywhere more than a couple of weeks, you are a fool. A straight up fool. Because if you get benzo addiction, oh man, you got yeah. Benzo addiction is like being on that boat with Charon the boatman down there on the river Styx, and falling off into the water, and the river Styx is stocked with piranhas, and you're getting eaten alive by it. Benzo withdrawal is like being seasick. And I've actually, well, here's a story for you. Who knows if I'm entertaining or not. I entertain the fuck out of myself though. But I'm on Lake Erie, up there, that big old lake up there, Lake Itchigumi, the Indians called it. So I'm on Lake Erie. I'm getting seasick as hell. The two guys I'm with are my uncle and my cousin. And we're in a small 15-foot boat. and we already drove 45 minutes to get to where we're going out on the water. But I'm seasick, and I'm like, look, I am seasick, and I want to be put on land. And of course, my cousin looks at me and says, look, man, I'm sorry, but we are not driving all the way back there. And I said, no, 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 there's islands all over this damn lake. I'm like, drop me off on an island. I said, just you can just leave me there. Just drop me off on an island with some water, like a damn castaway. And I just went out of this boat. So I'm not to the puking point of seasickness, but I'm sick as hell. So the island that I picked, and this is factual, you can actually look this up. It's called Rattlesnake Island. There's no rattlesnakes on it. I don't even know if there's any rattlesnakes in Ohio, but it's called Rattlesnake Island. So they bring the boat up next to the rocks of Rattlesnake Island on Lake Erie. The water's pretty calm, but the boat's going up and down and stuff. So I'm seasick and all messed up. So I climb out of the boat and immediately fall in the lake. And I can't swim. It's 10 foot of water. But I got a hold of this rock, and I'm just holding on to this rock. And I'm trying to struggle up on the rock. The rock is all slimy with moss and stuff, and I'm skinning my legs up and stuff. And I remember my old uncle, he was like 7 years old at the time, and they had drifted away from the island a bit and was watching me. And my uncle was like, what's he doing? Why is he doing that, Sam? And the guy, my cousin, was like, I don't think he's doing it on purpose. They're watching me, like, trying to get out of the water. And I don't know if they're aware that I can't swim or whatever, but I got seasickness. I can't swim, and I'm crawling up onto this island. And I just got a hold of the edge of a rock, and the rock is all covered with moss, and I'm trying to hook my arm around it and stuff, And there's people there, they wouldn't let me drown or whatever, so I'm assuming anyway. So, but anyways, I finally scrabble up onto the island. I'm like, look, come back and pick me up when you guys are ready to be home. I ain't going nowhere. So I'm on there, and I'm like, oh, so seasick, and I'm like, well, I'm laying down. So I lay down. And an irritating phenomenon happens, which boats keep going by. And this is like a fairly deserted area that I'm at. And I don't want them to think that I'm dead or like washed up on shore or need help or anything. So I got to sit up and wave. I'm sicker than hell. When I upright, my head's all spinning around. So every time a boat goes by, I got to sit up and wave and say something to them, And then I was like, oh, God, my head. And I would lay back down. Now, what I did unknowingly was I laid down on an anthill. So I'm seasick in the middle of Lake Erie on Rattlesnake Island, laying on an anthill. This is how bad seasickness was. I didn't move. I had ants crawling all over me. I didn't even give a fuck. I was brushing them off and stuff lazily. It's like, I'm not moving, man. Every time I get up, my head starts spinning and stuff. And that's like when it's like withdrawal. I compare withdrawal to seasickness. It's like I didn't even want to get out of bed to take a piss. I was like 2 hours could go by, and I was like, until I was forced to, I wouldn't get out of bed. So yeah, that's what withdrawal is. That's what withdrawal is. It's like laying on a damn anthill when you're sick, and the ants are irritating you, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. And that's like I am now, or the ants are on the inside. And yeah, I can laugh and I can joke and I can tell my silly stories about all the asinine things that I do, and boy, do I have a lot of them. But truth of the matter is, I don't want to be awake right now. I want to be asleep. I don't want to be in this. I don't want to feel like this, where I don't want to do anything and I don't want to go anywhere. I have an oral surgery appointment coming up on Friday that I got to tough it through, and I'll relapse a bit on my Xanax taper because I don't see no choice in the matter. How the hell am I gonna go to Cleveland and get oral surgery while I'm in withdrawal and so stressed out that I don't even want to leave the house, and it's got to be done. I mean, I've had like it's called a necrotic tooth, but I've had it right there for 16 months. I got misdiagnosed with it, and that's coming up in on Friday. Today's Wednesday, and man, got to be done. I got to get this tooth taken care of, and I had a bad extraction on a rear molar, and it's got to be. It doesn't matter that I'm like this. It's got to be done. I can't put it off anymore. It's been 16 months, and I'm lucky it's not more painful than it is. I was talking to my doctor, and I said, a necrotic tooth, that means the tooth is dead. How the hell can a dead tooth hurt when the nerve is dead? And he was like, well, you probably got a chronic abscess in there. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I've had a chronic abscess in my face for 16 months. But I was going to this other dentist, and they were like trying to get in my pocket, get my money, and they were telling me it was a gum issue. And here it's an actual dead tooth, and they're trying to get me to pay for a quadrant. They wanted me to have a full deep cleaning, which is like $1,100, but I talked them down to where, like, I'll get whatever quadrant I'm getting worked on done, because my insurance doesn't cover that. And they kept screwing around and trying to send x-rays to my insurance because they wanted to get my money. Meanwhile, I'm suffering with this stuff, and it's sensitive. It doesn't feel good, but it's not like a full toothache, because if it was a full toothache, I would have got out the pliers and a rag and took care of it a long time ago myself, because I can't handle that. I can't handle no toothaches. I can't deal with toothaches. So anyways, that's coming up on Friday, and if you're going through withdrawal and I'm sort of keeping you company, you can imagine how I feel about doing that when I don't even want to play my guitar. That's very southern. I didn't want to play my 6-stringed instrument just because I know I'm so irritable that I won't enjoy it, and don't really want to watch movies or TV or anything. I do like baseball, so I watched some baseball this morning, and I watched some Cavs games and some NBA. But I don't even want. I don't know. Stuff bothers me, and my brain's not healed yet. So I'm watching a baseball game, and I'm having trouble. Like, what just happened there? And I gotta like rewind the baseball game because I'm having trouble following the baseball game. So I can't really follow. I have trouble like following TV shows like The Walking Dead. I'm like, they're referencing something here that I should know about, but I don't. And I don't know what it is, but my attention just goes away, and then like I lose a little piece of time. And that is probably, I don't even want to attempt to explain. It's sad because I know how it works, and I know how the addiction works. I know about the GABA receptors. They are actually throughout your body, and how it all works and everything, but I couldn't attempt to explain that in any kind of way that would be coherent, not when I'm like this. But for whatever reason, the receptors get so used to the alprazolam, what they call it, joining, they call it something else, bonding with the receptors. Your body gets so used to functioning that way that even if you have GABA in your system, the receptors don't work, and they take a while to get to where they work again. And that's why the withdrawal with this seems to last so long, is because it takes a long time for your brain to heal. And that's what I told one person that was suffering, was like, that's the way you got to think of it. It's like you're really miserable, and the reason why you're really, really miserable is like your body is healing itself. So that misery is actually a sign of healing. And that's one way to look at it. That makes the misery like, the misery is your body adjusting and healing itself. And as long as you can have like little improvements, like I got a good appetite now. I don't have a lot of food in my house, but I have a really good appetite. And I didn't want to eat anything. I was wasting food. I would try to eat, and I just couldn't eat it. It was disgusting to me. And, that's my improvement. I don't feel like I have the bad flu anymore. I still feel like irritable, and I still can't focus on things. And I still ramble incoherently, as you are all well aware of. And, yeah. So, yeah, this is like therapeutic. And I don't know. It's therapeutic to me. I don't know if it's therapeutic to y'all. But, yeah, I've learned to laugh at some stuff that maybe other people don't think that's funny. If you got time for another story, and if you're going through withdrawal, maybe you do. I cut my leg once really badly, and I did it in a stupid, asinine way, which is I had a knife that my brother gave me, and it was like razor sharp from the factory. It's made by a company called Cold Steel. So I figured out how I could open it really fast, and I was opening it really fast by smacking it on my leg, and I'd smack the knife on my leg and flip my thumb and open it. Well, I got the order wrong, and I opened it first, and then I smacked it on my leg. I'm lucky I didn't cut my femoral artery and die, but I had shorts on, and the shorts were no protection. It sliced right through the shorts into my leg, and a big old flap of skin come down. Maybe this is traumatic for people going through withdrawal, hearing about gory stuff. So anyways, I'm looking at what Bernie Mac called the white meat. When you see the white meat, when you cut yourself, you done bad. You done a bad thing. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at curtains of blood coming out of me, and I'm not a tough guy, but I'm not a complete wuss. So I was like, oh, shit. Grabbed some paper towels and was trying to get it stopped with paper towels. And about the second roll, I realized, this isn't going well. So I called up my brother-in-law, and I was like, hey, man, I could really use a cigarette right now. And he could hear it in my voice. He's like, what happened? I was oddly enough, he was receptive to my misery at that point in his life. And I was like, I cut myself. And he's like, you don't sound right, man. I'll be down. So he comes down there, and he sees like a wastebasket full of blood, basically like bloody paper towels. And I showed him it, and he turned all white and stuff. He's like, oh, damn. He's like, I was like, well, you ain't no help. And so anyways, I'm like, I got to figure out something with this. But yeah, he gave me a cigarette and sat with me for a minute. And I ended up duct taping it with a towel. So I duct taped the living hell out of it to stop the bleeding. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to go to the emergency room for this, because first of all, it's a knife wound, which I'm going to have to explain how that happened. It's a bad knife wound, and a knife, as we know, is a common weapon. And as we also know, emergency rooms and the police are not unfamiliar with each other. So I don't want to go to the emergency room for this. So I just wanted to stop bleeding. So I'm like, I better go have somebody with me. So my brother-in-law left, and I called up my father, who was alive at that time, and I said, hey, is the football game on today? And he's like, yeah. So I was like, I want to come over and watch the football game. So he sees that my leg's all wrapped up, and I explained to him the situation. I put some newspapers down in his car in case I bled in his car. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm watching the football game at his house, and I want people around me just in case, I bleed to death or whatever. And unbeknownst to me, my little makeshift duct tape bandage, it had slipped. So I'm starting to feel real relaxed, man. I'm like, I feel like really, really sleepy and relaxed. And then I look down, and I was sitting on newspapers, and there's like a pool of blood there. I didn't know it, but my bandage had slipped, and the bleeding, it didn't clot at all. So I'm like, I put my finger in it, and it was like, there's like I'd say up past the fingernail. And I'm like, oh shit. And I was like, at that point, I was like, take me to the emergency room, like now, please. So he goes to take me to the emergency room. What happens? We get stopped by the police. And I'm like, oh my God, this could only happen to me. I got a bad knife wound. I look like I've been in some kind of situation, and the cops are stopping us. The cops pull him over. So I'm like, I stay in the car, and I'm like, oh God, if they make me get out of the car, this is going to be terrible. And they're like, we're investigating a bad bar fight where somebody got hurt very badly. And the car matches your car. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. If they make me get out of the car, man, I was like, I'm bleeding to death here. If they make me get out of the car, I'm like, I don't know what is going to happen here. But my dad talked his way out of it and got back in the car, and he didn't mention me being cut or anything like that at all. And he just looked at me and shook his head at me. And then I went to the emergency room. Well, I'm in the emergency room, and there's a whole bunch of people in there, and there's all kind of people. They're all messed up, man. There's one guy holding his eye. He had a piece of metal in his eye. I mean, it was a busy day bad day for the old town there. A lot of people all hurt and stuff, but they seen me, and they seen all that blood all over me, and they seen the way I looked, and they like grabbed me before they're like, forget information, forget everything. They grabbed me and threw me in a wheelchair and started cutting my pants off right there in front of everybody to get to the wound that I had on my leg. And they're like, you don't mind cutting the pants off, do you? And I'm like, you got them all the way about half cut off, so no. And they're like, how did this happen? And I explained it to them, and then they kept asking me how it was happening. I'm like, this is just like on TV where they try to see if you can keep your story straight. And so I cut to the chase, and I said, look, I did not get in a knife fight with a midget that cut me in the leg. I said, and somebody started laughing. One of the workers there started laughing. I said, I cut myself accidentally. I know it's a weird way to cut yourself, but I cut myself accidentally. I did it to myself, you know. And they're like, yeah, you cut yourself that bad. You know, like, anyways. So they finally shut up when I had that line about, no, I did not get in a knife fight with the midget. I was like, they're just trying to feel out my story to see if they need to call the police to see if I killed somebody or something. So anyways, I go and I'm getting stitched up, and they're like, starting an IV on me. And the person that's doing the IV, I don't know if they're a rookie or what the deal is, but they didn't cap the IV. Blood starts squirting out of the IV all over the damn room. The attending physician comes in there, and he's like, God damn it, Margie, don't you think he's lost enough blood already? And there's blood flying out of my arm and stuff. I just started laughing. I thought that was funny. He was like, God damn it, Margie, don't you think he's lost enough blood already? And, put a cap on that thing. And then they capped the IV and they put fluids in me. They didn't have to give me a blood transfusion or anything like that. They're just like, you're awfully pale, you're awfully pale. And I said, well, I'm Irish and German. Pale, sort of my lot. And I said, I don't know how much blood do you think you lost? And I said, I didn't measure it, but it looked like a lot of blood to me. And they're like, well, we need to keep an eye on you. They didn't keep me in the hospital or whatever. But this was already at the point where they were like not wanting to hand out drugs because that was a bad cut. I don't remember how many stitches they put in it, but it went numb. And I told the guy, that was probably my mistake. I was like, he was going to shoot me up with a bunch of stuff before he stitched me up. And I'm like, don't bother. I said, I can't feel anything in that whole area. And he goes, well, I'm going to shoot you up anyway. So they shot me up and then they stitched me up. And they told me to take Tylenol for it. I wanted some pain meds because I'm like, man, anytime that I've ever had any injury or stuff where it's gone numb, and that means when it goes numb, it's bad. And when it wakes up, it is gonna hurt. And that was no different, so that's like Tylenol. Give me a break. Take some Tylenol for that. And I cut my leg and to where the skin peeled back and I could see the white meat. And lost all that blood and everything. So anyways, that's just, more ridiculousness. Like, I got a lot of ridiculous stories like that about things that happened in my life. And a lot of it self-inflicted. That was definitely just me screwing around, being stupid. And almost killed myself screwing around, being stupid. Because I just cut some major veins. I didn't get to the arteries. There wasn't no arterial spurt going on. But yeah, getting stopped on the way to the emergency room by the police, who are looking for somebody who's was in a bar fight where somebody was badly injured when you're bleeding like a stuck pig. Yeah, that's the kind of, when that stuff happens to you, you're like, oh, this only happens to me. I am the universe's bitch. This is more jokes. God really likes to mess with me. He just enjoys my sense of humor about the whole thing. So, yeah, the Benzo thing, though, it's not really funny. I mean, that's just my way of coping. It's not a funny thing. It's not funny to go through that suffering and then to feel like that, and then not knowing where it's going to end. And with me, I don't want to say with me especially, but because like I said, I'm not even taking that much as compared to other people. But I got the heart thing to worry about. So today I had a bad heart day where I'm like, my heart don't feel right. It's like I can, because I can feel when my heart's screwing up. I'm like, something's, I don't know what I did, but it wasn't good. And I got that. You got all that stress hanging over you, and the benzo withdrawals. Ugh, it's you get the physical and you get the mental with it. You get the physical feeling of the flu and just pain and ugh, and the loss of appetite and the nausea and all that, and then you get the mental jackpot where you get confusion, you get fear, you get anxiety. Like, I got a lot of chronic pain, so one of the things that I was doing in the worst of my withdrawal was like, this is that, like blowing, snowballing something into a bigger thing. Like, I got pain all the time. It doesn't mean anything, but you got all that time to think while you're laying there not being able to move, and you're like, oh, that pain in my leg, man, it could be this or it could be that, and you start playing those games, and then you know I, it affects some people to the point where they have auditory hallucinations, and they hear, one guy told me he would hear a woman's voice and then say what he didn't say what she said to him or whatever like that. But I mean, just terrifying stuff. And even without those breaks from reality, like I had depersonalization, which is that feeling of being separate from yourself, and like you're outside your body, and I've never really heard voices or anything like that. I couldn't imagine I think that would really just terrify me so badly if hallucinations. I can't ever remember hallucinating, but that happens with this, and so I kind of got off easy from my point of view. I mean, I'm still going through it, but um, eh, in the ignorance of doctors, this is a common theme in all these videos, is everybody's mad at their doctor. You know, like, I think everybody that goes through this are like that goddamn doctor. They're like, avoid doctors. Doctors are the enemy and all that. I don't feel like my doctor is even that bad of a guy, but I don't know what the hell he was thinking with the 50% reduction. So yeah, I wasn't happy about that because that just seemed unnecessary to me. It's like that should at least require a conversation. I should not find out about that, on the way to the pharmacy. Like, oh, looking at my script and finding out I was going to go through some really fun times, which I'm still going through. But yeah, I had, even before that reduction, I had started watching videos about this stuff, and I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? I started watching y'all's videos about this stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And I had already tasted the withdrawal, just a little like sip, you know. I've had a good gulp, but I mean, I had cold turkey withdrawal for 2 days, and then had another episode of withdrawal for 1 day, and before that, so I had an idea of what it could be, and then um, to go through the whole process is what I'm doing now. I don't know. I don't know how long it's going to be, and I don't know. Like, one guy said, like, this is not a good happy thought to have while you're in withdrawal. But the guy was like, look, whatever problems led you to take the pill in the first place, they're still going to be there when the pill's gone. So that kind of worked. That's like, well, thank you, Captain Bring Down. Because yeah, I mean, it's true, but you don't want to think about that while you're going through it. But my deal was, because I got a bad heart, is like, that was like a huge source of anxiety for me. I got other problems, many other problems I don't want to bore you with, but the heart's the main thing, because you got a bad leg, or you got some pain or whatever. You got a bad heart, that's your ass. If something goes wrong with your heart, that is your ass. And if something goes wrong with your heart, like just in the course of your day, you could be like 1 minute mind your own business going about your day, the next minute in the ambulance, or the next minute in the emergency room, or getting admitted to the hospital, and going into a cardiac unit. And it's always so cold for me, and I don't like shirts, as you know from all my videos, is I have a hypersensitive skin from the CRPS on my stomach. So I don't like shirts. Whenever I have to wear a shirt, I wrap an ace bandage really tightly around my belly. So when you can't do that when you go into a cardiac unit, because they got all the stuff hooked up to you, and the monitors and all these wires and stuff hooked up to you, and you're freezing your ass off the whole time. And I've had that experience a few times. But that's the thing of the anxiety, is like that experience is waiting. See, if she feels like it's waiting around the corner for you like a mugger all the time, just waiting to jump on you and just change your whole life, and like disrupt your whole life. And because I could feel my heart so intensely, that's when I started developing the anxiety. I mean, I probably always had a little bit of the GA or whatever, generalized anxiety, because I grew up in a difficult home, and my dad was a fun person. And, so I probably always had a little bit of that, but it was never like debilitating. There was never any episodes like where my heart's just beating like 150 beats a minute, and you feel like you're losing your marbles and you can't calm down. And I think that's an anxiety attack. I think a panic attack is maybe something different. I think I was having anxiety attacks, but I never had anything like that in the past. I always had, when I had to public speak, when I had to do like speeches in school and stuff, like I'm not like that now. I'll talk whenever, about whatever. I don't really give a damn about that crap anymore. As far as like being bashful, but I was a bashful kid, so I would feel anxiety like that. But a true anxiety attack that's a different thing. That's a natural response to a high stress situation. It's one thing. An actual anxiety attack, where you're just in a regular situation, you could be like in a grocery store and freak out, or in my cases, I was usually at home. And I remember one vivid anxiety attack where I was in bed, and I'm like, had the phone, and I'm like, should I call 911? Should I not call 911? And I'm like, give yourself time and see if you can calm down. And all that stuff led me to Xanax, which was a good temporary fix, a horrible long-term fix. And anyways, so yeah, that's 48 minutes. You see, I'm such a chatterbox, and I have so many weird stories, and I could just blah 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 blah, do a Howard Stern 4-hour marathon of just gabbing about this, that, or the other. The problem is, I don't know if it's entertaining on you guys' end. I just if it gives anybody any comfort who's going through benzo withdrawal, then I can justify my own vanity of sitting here looking at a camera and gabbing away like I'm the most interesting person, the most interesting man in the world, which I know I'm not. But yeah, let's put these up, and maybe somebody can get something out of them. If you see somebody that's suffering through the same thing that you're suffering through, but they can manage to be cheerful, hopefully mildly amusing, and optimistic, maybe that's useful, or maybe that's a useful thing. I figure you can always click off, so yeah. I'm sure that when I have 100 views on a video, I'm sure only 5 or 10 people stayed with me through the whole thing. Especially like, I just do this stuff like spontaneously. Like don't have any, like, I'm going to talk about this. Like I'll see people make videos, they're looking down at like their bullet points of what they want to talk about or whatever. I just try to like weave a tapestry of nonsense and mystery. Like the mystery being, what the hell is this guy's problem? Can't shut up. But no, it's just I'm bored. I'm bored, and my nerves are so shot from the withdrawal that I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do any of my hobbies. I don't. Yeah. So this occupies my mind, thinking of things to say and telling my silly stories. Um, yeah, they're not too bad. I think they're kind of pretty good stories, man. I mean, come on, Rattlesnake Island. I'm not even making that up, man. I got dropped off seasick on Rattlesnake Island and laid in ants. That's how bad seasickness is. You don't move. You just kind of like, oh, these goddamn ants. And just brush them off. Oh, get off my face, ants. Leave me alone, ants. And then cutting your leg and getting stopped by the police who are looking for somebody who has a car that matches the car you happen to be in. And it's a violent crime and you're bleeding like a stuck pig. And you've been knifed by yourself. Shit's funny, man. So yeah, you have to laugh and have a sense of humor about stuff. I know a lot of people can't manage that, and maybe I didn't when I was younger. But then so much bad stuff happened to me that it just became like a defense mechanism. And yeah, I can remember one other story that is just so stupid and such a ridiculous thing to do to yourself. But I'm not a chef. I'm not a cook. But yeah, I prepared this beautiful meal. Steak, a little side dish of some vegetables, some sauteed corn, and some another side dish, and I had the steak laid out. And I was like, man, this is going to be good. I had it all set up to eat. And I had this bottle of white wine. And I was like, I could not get the cork out of that goddamn wine to save my life. I couldn't push it in like you do sometimes, and then drink around the cork. I couldn't pour. The cork was like falling apart, and I'm like, I just got mad, and my steak was getting cold. So I had this old-fashioned sink, and it's like a rim there, and I was like, fuck it, and I took the bottle, bang, smacked the neck of that bottle, and was gonna and broke the bottle, to and pour myself a glass of wine to go with my nice meal. The problem was the neck broke off and was like a dagger and went right into my left foot. And I looked down and it didn't stick in my foot, which thank God, because I've had that experience before. I do not like pulling things out of various pieces of my anatomy, like pulling knives and pulling shards and stuff out of yourself and stones, and yeah, that's horrible. But I look down and there's this little triangular patch in my left foot, and it slowly starts to overspill with blood, and it slowly becomes even more quickly. So I'm like, oh, what did I just do? So my meal now that I was so anxious to eat that I couldn't wait, that I would actually think I was in a movie or something and break a bottle like that, suddenly just became not all that important. So I wrap up my foot, and I thought I had it wrapped up, and I'm walking past the bathroom door, and my bandage broke, and blood just sprayed out and hit the bathroom door, and I'm like, oh shit. And I wrapped my foot up all over again, and I called my brother, and I was like, man, I'm just calling you to calm down. He's like, what happened? And I explained to him what happened. He's like, what the hell did you do that for? And I said, wow, you're not a comforting soul, are you? I was like, I'm calling you to calm down, and you're calling me a dumbass. He was like, yeah, that was stupid. And I was like, no shit, it was stupid. Whenever you see blood leaving your body at a high rate of speed, and it's because of you, chances are you did something stupid, And yeah, but I remember him as like he was like, "Oh, that was stupid." I was like, "Yeah, no shit, no shit, it was stupid." And I called somebody else and to try to comfort me, and the guy was like not paying attention to what I was saying. He's like talking to other people in the room and putting his hand over the phone and stuff, you know. And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'll talk to you later." But yeah, yeah, that's my family. My family's a trip. Everybody's family's a trip in its own way, I guess. But my family's yeah, they're a bunch of characters. Is the nicest way to put it. But yeah, that was so ridiculous. I had that impulse where I couldn't get that cork out of the wine, and I just bang, I'll just break the bottle, man, and just like smacked the neck of the bottle onto the side of the kitchen sink, and then the neck of the bottle broke off into a perfect dagger that fell straight down into my foot and stabbed me in the foot so bad that I still have a scar from it, and it's a pretty significant scar. And I didn't go to the hospital for that one though. I had a problem with puncture wounds and stab wounds and stuff like that is the swelling. There was a lot of swelling and there was a lot of pain involved. I didn't want to put a shoe on for a while. I can tell you that much. But yeah, man, some of that stuff is just ridiculous. So ridiculous. It's like it seems like there's an endless treasure trove of ne'er do well nonsense in my head. Uh, the idea of it being treasure. That's a little flattering. But yeah, they're just everybody has stories. My stories are somewhat odd. Usually they involve blood and pain and unpleasantness. And yeah. Oh, what do we got? We got 5:02. I've been awake since 5:30 in the morning, and that was a conquest. Waking up at 5:30 in the morning, because that's almost the normal hour that people wake up at, which I haven't been able to do for weeks and weeks because of the benzo withdrawal. And hopefully I can get back to where I'm sleeping normal. I've been thinking about, I know how you guys feel about psychoactive drugs, but I've been thinking about this old drug that I was put on back in the day called doxepin. And I was put on like a fairly high dose of it, and I didn't like it at the time. But man, it really did help me sleep, and it really did reduce the pain. The problem was it didn't wear off for like 18 hours, So I had a lot of time where I was like, oh, I was real tranquil and at peace, okay. And I was just sitting there taking 3 hours in the morning to drink a cup of coffee. Because I've been disabled for, I had a spinal tumor when I was 16 removed. And then I had my spine collapse and had full spinal reconstruction when I was 18 years old. And then from the radical and traumatic nature of those surgeries, I developed CRPS, which is a crazy ass complex regional pain syndrome. It's a crazy autonomic nervous system disease, and it's also why the withdrawal has been like so intense for me, even though I'm on a low dose of the alprazolam. Is I already have like a damaged nervous system, or it's like, ugh, what the hell was that? It's like your body works on like a yin and yang type of deal, where it has a balance between the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, which make up your autonomic nervous system. So when I first contracted that disease, they called it RSD, reflex sympathetic dystrophy, in reference to the sympathetic nervous system. And your sympathetic nervous system is what controls your flight or fight response, and your adrenals, and how much if you have like hyperactivity with your sympathetic nervous system, that's where you get like the edgy, sweaty, edgy, violent type. You're ready to act. It's like when you're threatened, that's when your sympathetic nervous system kicks in gear. So I don't react really good to stress, and especially emotional stress. But they changed the name to it because they found out more about it, And there's it really is an autonomic disease, because it doesn't just affect the sympathetic system, it affects the parasympathetic system, which I will call the calm side, the calming, the Zen, the Buddhist side of your autonomic system. Whereas the sympathetic, he's the action guy, he's the type A personality, he's the guy that's like, we got to do something about this problem. Where the parasympathetic is like, let's chill, let's relax, let's think about this for a while, you know. And so your parasympathetic system is what controls digestion and your sexual functions and other things like that. And then your sympathetic, that's why when you're like really stressed out and edgy and your sympathetic system's in overload, is like, that's why eating and not a good idea when you're like that. And that's why, well, for me personally, that's why my appetite goes away. My appetite goes away if my sympathetic system is, I have too much stress and too much nervousness. And like, for instance, going to the dentist, I can never eat before I go to the dentist, and I can never eat after I go to the dentist. I can't eat before I go to the dentist because of the stress. It just kills my appetite. And after the dentist, when my parasympathetic Zen Buddhist side to my nervous system is like, oh, that stress is over now, we can chill and relax, then my face is messed up and I can't eat anyway. So anyways, I got this autonomic disease that I've had since I was 18 years old, and that's really probably played havoc with the withdrawal symptoms that I've had. So I'm lucky really that it hasn't been a lot worse. I mean, CRPS is a pretty miserable disease, and I believe the word used would be debilitating as far as what it does to you, the amount of pain that you're in, and the crazy symptoms that you have, and the unpredictability of it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really think of myself as disadvantaged a lot, because it's just a bad way to think about yourself. You know, you want to think about yourself like that as damaged goods. But besides that, I have other things that people with normal bodies don't have. Like, I can laugh at things that people can't laugh. I can laugh at my situations. Laugh at my situation even though it's unpleasant. I can let things go. I have like a sort of like a I'm sort of like a natural Buddhist, where I don't stress about things. You know, I got somebody that owes me some money now, and I'm like, why aren't they talking to me? But they were supposed to, like, they should be calling me and talking to me, and I haven't heard from them. But why should I worry about that when I got this appointment going on? So like, I've learned things from having CRPS and from going through all my trauma that are very, very valuable things. And so I don't really think of myself as disadvantaged, or you know, I think I'm just somebody who's got a lot of physical problems, but I mean, I have other advantages that other people don't have. So I'm also easily entertained. I can make a video for like an hour and 3 minutes and be completely happy about it. Like I said, I'm very easily entertained, man. You just gotta shake some keys. I'm cool. So yeah, I can just prattle on and try to be entertaining, but at some point, at some point, you even get sick of yourself. So, alrighty, there's another way for anybody suffering through this who's like me and just doesn't really want to do anything, to kill some time with somebody who knows what you're going through and knows what it's like to be like that on the inside, to be sunburned and on the inside, and feel like the ants are crawling on, you know, all that stuff, all those silly metaphors that I used in this hour segment of me. But anyways, I'll end there. I don't know what to do with the rest of my day. Like I said, if the withdrawal's not good today, my heart's not good today, so I don't know what to do. I'll probably drink a bunch of water and give my voice a rest. I wish I could read better. I really am in love with this idea of making audiobooks and putting them on YouTube. The problem is I'm not really good at it. I got a big old deep voice for one thing, and that's hard to fire that sucker up. I don't have, I'm not a sound engineer, so I can't manipulate the sound. And I can't seem to read the words that are on the page because, God damn it, I like what I wrote in my head better than what's in that book. So I rearrange prepositional phrases and say, like, just flip words around and stuff. And I don't know if that's some weird form of dyslexia, or I don't know what that is, but it's really bad for trying to do that. So that's very frustrating to me. And I try really hard because it's a hobby that I'm interested in, but I'm just not very good at it. And yeah, I would like to be able to do that. But yeah, I've been talking for an hour and 5 minutes. I think that's plenty, and I think my voice probably needs a rest. So, I'm just trying to keep people company keep myself company, and to keep other people company that are going through this misery. This indescribable. I mean, I tried to describe it as best as I could, but you don't, I've said it many times, you don't know what this is until you go through it. And it almost seems like a waste of time talking to anybody who hasn't gone through it about it, because it is just an unusually odd, horrific experience. And all the way your emotions spike, the sensitivity to everything, like everything's annoying. And yeah, I don't want to be one of them guys, like a temperance guy going around warning people, but yeah, I might have to. If I might have to be one of those people that, I'm not talking about like on YouTube like I'm doing now with the I'm talking about like just in the course of like talking to people, having conversations with people, like, like there's nothing worse and more annoying than a reformed person, a reformed drunk, a reformed anybody going around preaching. But I might have to do that stuff just because it's like, then again, people generally don't listen. They generally make their own decisions. But I swear, and I'm not kidding, that if I would have went on YouTube and I would have watched some of the videos that some of the people that are actually sitting through this long thing that I'm train wreck that I'm making right now, if I would have watched that stuff, I would have had second thoughts, because watching that stuff while I was on it, I said, man, I am in deep right here. I said, I was looking at the way that people were suffering with this, and I'm like, I'm already at the 2-year mark, and some of these people have been dealing with benzodiazepines for a lot longer than that. And I was like, I need to get off of these things, and I need to get off of them now. So, yeah. So looking at those videos of people, and maybe some of the people that are listening right now made some of those videos, I want to thank you, because it got me hit. I mean, I didn't like the idea of being chemically dependent anyway. It was getting really annoying, and to have to wait on your doctor's pen to see if you're going to be all right. And then, to have them screw up a couple of times and to go through withdrawal and get a taste of that to where it's confirmed you are chemically dependent, And I saw a video on here by some girl, and I don't know how old she was, but she was like, don't let people's videos like sway your opinion, or like, everybody's different. I was like, no. Your brain is not different. You're not special. That's how people get addicted to things. They think like, oh, that won't happen to me. Once you start taking something that interferes with your GABA uptake receptors, it's not my opinion to say that you're going to get addicted. It's not my opinion to say that you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem. It's just a matter of degree. You're going to have a problem because you're interfering with the way that your brain functions. And this person that made this video on there was making it sound like, it's an opinion that prolonged alprazolam use is a bad idea, or that's a bad drug for you. I was like, no, it's not just that I'm going through this experience. It's just like when you do the research and you understand the way the human brain works, and the chemistry involved, and how alprazolam bonds to those receptors and changes the way they function. It's like, no, there's nobody out there that's going to be like okay with taking what I'm taking for a prolonged period of time. You're not going to go off of it and be just like giving up eating egg yolks. You know, it's not going to be like that. You're going to go through some stuff. It's just a matter of how bad, and you might even be flirting with psychosis. So I'm like, I don't know what this person's thinking, but I mean, so maybe you shouldn't even take me too seriously talking about this stuff. And if maybe I got my information wrong, but this girl didn't seem like a bad girl, but she was like, I was like, wow, she's really saying some harmful stuff, because that's how you get addicted to things. Is you're like, well, just because they had a problem with it doesn't mean I'll have a problem with it. And that's true of maybe some things, because I don't like alcohol. I've gotten drunk before, but you know, it's not my thing. But with alprazolam and prolonged use, I don't think it's an opinion to say that you're going to have a problem when you stop taking it, because it changes the way your brain works, and your brain's going to have to adjust to working without it. And that process doesn't take months. It can take weeks. As far as I know, alprazolam use is only indicated for 2 to 4 weeks. I'm being tedious right now, and I apologize. This is way too long. I'm just bored and rambling excessively about things just because I'm suffering. And, you know, there's always another video to click on too, so it doesn't matter that, you know, no one is forced to watch this anyway. But yeah, that's enough of me. Good Lord. Goodbye.